All right. Finally, we have liftoff. So our speaker today is Ashwin. He is from not our Ashwin. No, sorry, I don't mean our Ashwin. This is also our Ashwin. Not the Ashwin who sits in this building, but the one who sits in Bangalore. So he is part of the crime check team, part of the same family as Identified. And I am very excited about this specific event because it's about Carnatic music. And I have come across Carnatic music because I've attended a few concerts, never really understood it very well. And have been to a lot of jazz concerts where Carnatic comes up a lot, especially fusion concerts where Carnatic comes up a lot. And I really love those. So today I'm going to learn a lot more about Carnatic music. Okay. And for all those who are paying attention, right? Please keep paying attention. I'm keeping my eye on you. If I find that you guys are actually doing your work and not paying attention, no promotion. Right? So with that said, Ashwin, are you ready? Finally.
Yes. If you can hear me, I'm good to go.
Yes. Try again.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear my violin? Just tell me if you're able to hear my violin.
Yes, can you make it louder? Yes, hello.
It's perfect, Ashwin. Go on.
Go on. All right.
You can hear me, huh? Is the violin audible for you, Riju?
Yes.
Okay. Then I think we are set. I'll get started.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Riju. Thanks, team, for setting the audio up. I know it's been difficult. So, yeah, I'll just share my screen and we'll get started. Can you see my screen? Can you see my presentation? Can someone confirm if you're able to see my presentation?
Yes, Ashwin, I'm able to see.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session on Carnatic music, where I'll try to cover some of the basics of Carnatic music. I was trained in Carnatic music at a young age, and I principally I learned a little bit of vocal, but didn't pursue it. I mostly learned on the violin, and I learned it from my father. My guru is my father, Anand Verma. He's a performing artist, so he plays concerts on both vocal and violin. And yeah, so I'll start with a cliche preface that music is very vast. Even though I'm restricting myself to just Carnatic music and just its basic, it's like a universe from a multiverse. It's still very vast. Okay, so I'll try to cover just very basic things. And since it's for a general crowd, I'll stick to the very basics here. Okay. So to start with, I'll give a small sample of what a Carnatic music concert looks like and what it sounds like. And I'll play back a small video. I mean, throughout the session, I'll take the help of some videos that I've collected for this presentation. And I'll play back this concert video for you. And while watching the video, please pay attention to the who all are on stage, what are they doing, what is their body language, and how are they performing the music. Okay, their facial expressions and all these things also please pay attention. Okay, I'm going to play this small video for you.
Lakshmana.
शान्ति संसेवित चरणम्.
I'll fade out the video here. So while watching the video, I hope you saw like what those artists were doing. So mainly the center stage taken by the way, this performance is by none other than Dr. KJ Yesudas. He has sung in almost all languages in India, and you might know him from the songs like Jab Deep Jale Aana, Guri Tere Gaon. Many songs he has played.
AI कंसल्टिंग
Sorry,
अभी
is
तक
that a
डेटास
question?
रिपोर्ट नहीं आज इवनिंग में ये लोग न्यू डेटास रिपोर्ट देने वाले हैं पुराना
Can others mute, please? Okay. So yeah, this was KJ Yesudas concert from back in his day, as you can see from his black beard, and he's the main vocalist sitting in center stage, and he's guiding the entire concert. And you can see the violinist accompanying on the side. He is following along, right? And you can see two percussion instruments. One is the mridangam, and the other one is the khatam. And you will see one person who is holding this long instrument, which is called the tambura. Okay. Now there are some reasons why this concert is a very good concert, and I'll explain in terms of some concepts that we say in Carnatic music called Shruti, Talam, and Layam. Okay, so Shruti basically means that they are all in sync, in pitch. Okay, they are all singing in pitch. All of the instrumentalists, including percussionists and tambura, and everything is singing on the same pitch. Okay. So this is why it's very good to listen to this music. If one of them was out of pitch, we would feel very awkward when listening to the concert. So that is one reason. The second aspect is the talam. So talam is basically the beat that goes on into which the composition is set. And you can see that even if the lyrics are going here and there, and is playing differently and percussion is playing differently, but they are all keeping to the same beat. So this makes it enjoyable, right? And the third aspect is layam. So layam means they are really enjoying the music themselves. So they are one with the music kind of concept. So this is very obvious when you look at the people performing, right? They are actually enjoying themselves. So you can see Yesudas smiling at the other artists, and they are basically communicating non-verbally by their body language. They are nodding their heads to the rhythm and that kind of thing. So this is why on these three aspects, the Shruti, Talam, and Layam, this concert is very good. Okay, and that's why as a spectator, as an audience also, you will feel elated when you listen to such a concert, when you're sitting there with them. Okay, so this was this is just to give an idea of what the typical concert looks like. Now that that's covered, we can go on to the basics. Okay, Riju, all clear? You're still able to hear me fine?
It's a little bit like muffled, but we are able to get the gist of it.
Okay, okay.
Figure out.
Let me know if any changes required on my end.
I mean, you could speak a little bit slower, like as in this, the words are muffled. But you speak a little bit slower. Yeah.
Okay, speak slower. Okay, okay. That's always been a problem for me. I'll speak slower. Okay. Okay. So in the next section, we'll go over the basics of Carnatic music. And these are the main concepts that we'll cover. We'll cover the Shruti, Swaras, Talas, Gamakas, and Ragas. Okay. So I'll go in detail into each. And to explain, so I'll start with the Shruti. Okay. So Shruti is basically the foundational pitch of the concert, of any performance. So each artist has their own Shruti. So it's like, what is your bass note that you're going for, right? It's the foundational pitch. In Western music, this is called tonic or root. And like I mentioned before, all of the artists in the performance, they will stick to the same pitch. That's how it should sound good. Okay. And in a Carnatic concert setup, usually an instrument called the tambura keeps a pitch. Now I'll play a small video of what a tambura looks like and sounds like.
Let me play the tambura for you. This is in another pitch than I sang, but I'll play it. Pa sa 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 pa sa sa sa. It's only playing those three notes. Pa, only these three notes.
So that's the tambura, and it keeps the foundational pitch, and it makes a droning sound to which the vocalist will usually do. So if you see the previous slide, he's always sitting near to the concert main artist so that they can listen and make sure they are in tune. Okay. So this is the Shruti and the Tambura keeps the Shruti. Now we'll move on to notes, swaras. Okay, swaras is nothing but the notes, and I think most of you would already know that there are 7 notes, right? Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Tha, and Ni. Okay. Now I'll take the help of my violin here to illustrate a little bit more details about the swaras and positions and all. And I hope you can all see my video, right? You can see?
Yes,
Okay.
Ashwin.
Okay, so in the violin, right? So basically, each of the string, just like the tambura that was explained in the previous video, right? These strings are tuned to sa and pa. Okay, so it goes like this. This is sa, and this is pa. Okay. Now to get the other notes, basically I have to increase the frequency. So I'll put a finger on my fingerboard here. So on the sa string, I'm going to put one finger here, and the frequency of the sound will increase, and I'll hear the next note, which is re. Okay. Sa, re, like this. Okay. And again, if I put one more finger a little bit further down, then the frequency will increase again, and I'll get the note ga. So it sounds like sa, re, ga. Similarly, you can go up ma, pa, tha, ni. Okay. So overall, all the notes together, it sounds like this. Focus on the violin here. Right. These are the 7 notes. Now, within these 7 notes, actually, there are different positions. So in Carnatic music, what we say is, even though there are only 7 notes, some of these notes are variants, have variants, and some of these notes are constant. So we say that the sa and the pa, they don't have any other variations. Okay. And the re, for example, if I keep on the sa, if I keep the re very close to the sa, I'll get a sharp sound like this. Sa, re. This is one type of re. Now, if I increase the distance from the base, I'll get another type of re, which is this. Okay, so there are 2 re's here. Similarly, I can keep the next finger very close to the re, and I'll get this sound. Re, ga, like this. And if I increase the space again, I'll get a higher ga, which sounds like this. Re, ga. So in this way, there are 2 positions possible for each of the other notes other than sa and pa. Okay, so that's how we come up with 12 different positions. So 1 sa, 2 re, 2 ga, 2 ma, 1 pa, 2 tha, and 2 ni. So this gives rise to 12 different positions. Okay. Now in Indian music generally it's called 12 positions, but in Carnatic music it is defined as 16 different positions. It's a controversial topic. I'll not go into the details, but just know that in Carnatic, we say that there are 7 notes and 16 different positions. Okay. So any questions here on the swaras part?
Why does sa have only one position? Why does sa have only one position?
Not audible, Richard.
Why does sa have only one position?
So it is defined in that way in Carnatic music that Sruti, the bass notes, sa and pa, they are defined to be constant. Okay, that's why it's called the Sruti. When you say the Sruti, that's the foundational pitch and that will not change. And all other notes are defined on top of it. In fact, that's the basis for tuning of these Carnatic instruments as well. So you'll always see that they're tuned to sa and pa, whereas in Western music, the tuning is different. And the reason is basically this, that sa and pa are considered to be constant. Okay, so if this is clear, I'll move to the next slide.
One small question, Ashwin.
Sure.
Hi, this is Vivek here.
Vivek.
We all love controversy, so can you shed some more light on the 16 positions?
Sure. So it's an interesting question. So yeah. So basically what happens is, technically, like I showed you, right? There is this string, right? There is this string, and there are only so many positions possible here, right? So I can place the re here, I can place it slightly higher, and then comes the ga, then the higher ga, and so on, right?
Mhm.
So technically there can only be 12 positions actually, okay? But in Carnatic music, what happens is we say that instead of 2 positions for re, we say that slightly up, this is also re. So 3 re's are defined actually, okay? So this is the point of controversy. In Hindustani music, they say that no, it's not possible because the positions are fixed. So there can only be 12 notes. But Carnatic, according to Carnatic convention, when you speak that, like we represent each of these tones by a word, by a letter, right? Sari, Gama, Pa, Tha, Ni, Sa.
Mhm.
So according to Carnatic music, you can even though the position is that of ga, like this, you can still call it re, and it sounds slightly different when you speak, when you sing it with the like with the syllable, right? It sounds different. So you'll say sari instead of saying saga, you will say sari in that way. Okay, so it's a matter of like interpretation. It's a matter of how you sing that thing.
Excellent. So it looks like Hindustani classical is more keen on discretizing frequencies, whereas Carnatic music sort of views it as a spectrum, right?
Yeah, actually, even I mean, so frequency wise, right, they're all the same positions, exactly the same positions, just that it makes a difference when you sing it. So when you say sari, so it feels something else, feels like something else than if you sing saga in that way.
Got it. Cool,
It's
man.
a matter of yeah, and that's exactly why it's controversial. It cannot be explained technically, just that it sounds different, and Carnatic people find it good,
Yeah.
right? Traditionally,
Cool,
that
man.
way.
Thanks a lot.
Ashwin, just had a follow up on this. What is the keyboard kind of instrument for Carnatic music? So let's say if you were to play this on the harmonium, you'd still play the ga note only, but just sing a re. Is that what it is?
Exactly, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move to the next? So next comes the tala. So tala is basically the pulse of the music. In Western, it can be called as a meter. Okay, and we can use several other words colloquially like tempo, beat, speed, all these things, right? So basically, it's the pulse of the music. It defines the framework which in which the music stays, and this gives the sense of expectancy to the listener. So when you're listening to a music, you know that the beats are happening regularly, and you know when the song will start, when it will end, based on this beat. So the when you're perceiving the music, the beats give a proper structure to the whole overall song. Okay. Now in Carnatic music, how talas are defined is basically there are 7 different talas. So if you have seen the concert right before, like, and if you observe Carnatic musicians, you'll see that they're keeping their beat using their hand, right? So it goes like either they are putting a downbeat and count like this, or they're doing this, a downbeat and upbeat kind of thing. Okay. So this is called a lakhu, technically, when you're doing a beat and a count. And when you do a upbeat, downbeat kind of thing, it's called a dhruta. Okay. Now, based on the combination, based on the different kinds of combinations of this lakhu and dhruta, and the number of counts that you do, Carnatic music defines 7 different talas into 5 different jatis and 5 different gatis. Okay. So this gives rise to 7 into 5 into 5 equal to 175 different talas. Okay, if anyone is interested, I can discuss this separately. It's a very interesting topic, how these talas are laid out and what makes the difference between them and how they sound differently. Okay, it takes about 5 minutes to explain that part, so we can do it maybe after the presentation if someone is interested. Okay, so this is more pedantic, as in defining of all these different talas kind of thing. But in actual common usage, we'll see very few of these talas being in use. Okay. And the most common tala is called the Adi Tala. So Adi meaning primordial. The basic tala of Carnatic music is Adi Tala, and it's a beat. It's a tala that counts till eight beats. Okay, and most of the music that you hear, almost all pop music, everything would be set to this tala mostly. Okay. Now, to just illustrate the difference between the talas, I'll play some music which are in different talas. Okay, other than the common ones that you hear. So, for example, there is this tala called Misra Chapu. Okay, Misra Chapu is basically goes like this: takkitta, takka, thimi, takkitta, takka, thimi, in this manner. Okay, so it has a proper, different kind of swing to it. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in that way, this goes takkitta, takka, thimi, takkitta, takka, thimi. And I'll play one composition in this. This is set to the raga called Kalyani. Okay, and the name of the composition is Pankajalochana. It goes like this. And another famous composition in this raga is Krishna Ni Begane. I think most people would know this composition. So it goes like Krishna Ni Begane Baru. So this is proper Misra Chapu Tala. Okay. Another good different kind of tala is called Khanda Chapu. Okay. So it goes like this. Takka takkita takka takkita takka takkita thei takka takkita takka takkita. So it's a different feel altogether, and it's used for some fast numbers. So here I'll play one composition. This is set to the raga called Hamir Kalyani, and it sounds like this. Right, so it has a whole different feel to it because the basic tala used is different. It goes like taka takita taka takita. Okay, so that's some information about talas. Any questions here? Okay, so then I'll move to the next item,
Just a question, yeah.
which is gamakas. Yeah.
Hi, just a question. So just like Hindustani classical, does this have trital or some kind of dadra kind of tals? 6 beats, 16 beats?
Yes, I mean, which is 3 beats, huh?
No, 6 or 16.
Yes,
So I
definitely.
mentioned two different talas. One was with 16 beats, that is called as trital. And then there is something called as dadra, which is for 6 beats.
Yes, there are equivalents in Carnatic music, and 6 beats usually is called a tisra tala, and like tisra jadi talas will come to six beats. I'll just show you one diagram here, and I think that might help a little bit. So this is basically the tala system, the 175 talas, how they come about, right? And here we can see this one, right? This comes to 16 beats, basically. So this tala would be called Misra Jadi Madhya Tala. So this, the row above, this represents all the different jatis, and this represents the main basic tala. So this 16 beat tala would be called as Misra Jati Madhya Tala. Okay. In fact, there might be others also that come to the same count. And 6 is usually the Rupaka Tala. Chadusra Jadi Rupaka Tala.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So I'll move to the next item here, which is the gamakas. Okay. So gamakas, like this is the one thing that really sets apart Indian music from any other kind of world music. Yeah. So it's a basic feature of Indian music. Okay. We can say that this is what distinguishes it from any other kind of world music. And in fact, between Hindustani and Carnatic itself, this is what is one of the main distinguishing factors. Okay. So what is a gamaka? Gamaka is basically the ornamentation applied to a note. Okay. So it's very rare that in Carnatic music we play a note as it stands, like a standstill note. Okay. We'll always usually embellish it with some kind of sliding, some kind of slurs, these kind of things. Okay. Now I'll explain this factor also with some examples. So if I play the 7 notes that we heard initially, right, plainly, it will sound like this. So now obviously this did not sound like Indian music at all, right? And in fact, I would bet anyone would think it's Western music, right? Because this is a typical Western style where notes are played plainly. It's not to say that they don't have ornamentations and all, they do have it, but it's usually this is the style for Western music. Now, when it comes to Indian music, the same 7 notes, if I were to play it in Carnatic, okay, it would sound something like this. It basically becomes a raga called Shankarabharanam, and it goes like this. Right, it makes it's completely different now, right? With the change in gamakas. So, for example, a Western chord using the same notes would be something like this. Right, and composition in Shankarabharanam ragam, which is the same 7 notes, might sound something like this. Right, so this is the main this is the beauty of Indian music, in fact, that these gamakas are there, and in fact, in one way you can say that we are exploring the music in between the notes. It's not just the notes that we're playing, we are actually exploring the music in between the notes as well, and that's what gamakas are. And here, just to give you more idea about the gamakas, what is actually happening is, instead of playing a sa and a re simply, I'm actually going from the below note up to the above note and coming back. So if I were to play sa re, I would play sa gari, like this. That's what makes the gamaka. And this is in fact just one type of gamaka. There are many other types of gamakas that are very well defined and explored in Carnatic music. So one could be like you would do a tap on a nearby note. So instead of playing ga ma like this, you would do. So you see that I'm using this little finger to tap above, right? This is plain. I would do like this. And another type of gamaka, for example, is you do a double note. So it will sound like this. Okay. There are many other types that are well defined and studied. Yeah. So that's about gamakas. Any questions here? Okay, so I'll move on to the next item, and which is the biggest concept in Carnatic music, in Indian music. Basically, it's the concept of ragas. Okay, so raga is basically, technically we can define it as a particular arrangement of notes in ascending and descending order, along with the gamakas. Right. So we learned about the 7 notes, the 12 different positions, or 16 in Carnatic music, and that each of these notes can have their typical gamakas. Okay. And all these things coming together is the raga. Okay, so you take from these 12 notes, you can choose a few notes, put it in a particular order, and you have a raga. Okay, plus the accompanying gamakas as well. Okay, and the ascending scale that we say is called the arohanam, and the descending scale is called the avarohanam. Okay, so for example, when I played Sarigama Pathinisa, that was the arohanam, because you are going up the scale. So when I'm coming down, it's called avarohanam. And if I pick and choose the notes differently, you will hear different types of ragas. Okay. For example, I'm going to change some of the notes, and I'll get a raga called Maya Malavagavla. It sounds like this. Okay. And if I change one other note, it will sound something like this. Right, and so on. So by changing these notes and the gamakas that I'm applying to them, you get a whole sea of ragas. Okay, and Yeah, so this is, I'll again explain this difference, what difference it makes in ordering of the notes and the gamakas with some examples. Okay, so I'm going to take a raga called Chittaranjani, whose Arohanam and Avarohanam sound like this. Okay, and a typical composition is. So this is 7 notes, Sarigama Padani in this particular. Okay, now the same, exactly the same. I'm going to change the order a little bit. So instead of going Sarigama Padani, I'll skip some notes and it will sound. Okay, now a composition in this, a popular one, this is from Anupallavi, the second paragraph of that composition. Okay, so you can see that starting from the first completely different. The feel of the raga has really changed. And remember that it's exactly the same notes. Okay, just the ordering of the notes. Now for another example, I'll show how much gamakas will make a difference as well. Okay, now this third raga called Kannada, this gamaka which is very different as well as the ordering is different. So it sounds like this. So immediately you can feel the difference, right? The ga that was used, different type of gamaka that slides between the up note, and that gives a feeling of deep sorrow, like deep pathos, right? So this is the nature of ragas and how much this changes, right, based on the ordering of the notes as well as the gamakas that are used. And ragas itself is like a very vast concept. And in Carnatic music, most importantly, there is like a proper study of all the different possible combinations of these notes and gamakas, and that is called the Melakarta scheme. Okay, so what Carnatic musicians have done is they have taken Sampurna ragas, which means ragas which have all the 7 notes. They have studied what are the different positions that are possible. So in the previous slide about swaras, we had discussed about the different 12 positions that are possible, right? Now take all possible permutations and combinations of this, okay, which has 7 notes, and that gives you the Melakarta scheme. And these 72 ragas are called the Genesis ragas, okay? And all other ragas of like, there can be, I think, close to 20,000 recognized ragas are there. All of these originate from one of these 72 ragas. So that is the beauty of how well studied this concept is, the ragas and gamakas part. Okay. So yeah, just to give you one more example here of the ragas concept, I'll play back this video. You might already have seen this guy. His name is Abhi. Just a second. So he's an amazing artist, and what he has done is in 13 minutes, he has sang 73 different ragas. And why I'm playing this video is basically you can hear immediately, you can recognize that each raga is so different. The feel that you get is very different. Okay, we'll hear a few seconds of this video.
Awesome. Let's start with Bihag. Preeti Gowla. Kalyani. Rageshri. Shri.
Hindustani or Carnatic?
Carnatic. Now Hindustani.
Amazing talent here, really amazing. So how we can, like, it's not easy to switch between ragas this fast, and he gives the entire, the color of the raga very well. And he sings both Hindustani and Carnatic, by the way. Okay, so any questions here on the raga? Okay, so if not, I'll move to the next slide. So now that we have covered the basics, so in fact, we have covered most of the concepts that can be explored in a short amount of time. Now we are in a position to understand the history a little bit. So we'll quickly run through the the evolution of music from past to present. So the first written origins of Indian music is from the Samaveda. This is said to be dated from 4th to 1st BCE. So anywhere from 3000 to 6000 years old. And in Samaveda, it is mentioned in the context of chanting of mantras. So it is said that initially it started with a single note for chanting mantras. And then there was a requirement to stress on some particular words a little bit higher. And of course, when you're chanting for a long time, you'll feel tired and naturally your tone goes up and down. So that's how a 3-note concept came, which is still followed today. So you would have heard these notes in mantras. Basically just 3 notes. And then later, as the music became more expressive, it adopted more notes and it expanded that way. And around 12th century is when we say that Indian music basically split into 2 very distinct categories. One is Hindustani, the North Indian music, and Carnatic style. And the reason is basically North India had conquest from Persia and Arabian countries, and that influence basically changed the nature of the music. So the music became more like court music. It became more secular, right? Because it was now appealing to a lot of different crowds. And Carnatic, meanwhile, South India was less influenced by these foreign invasions, and it evolved completely independently. Okay, and this is a good point to explain why Carnatic music has this name, Carnatic music, right? So basically, in ancient India, the region of India south of the Vindhyas. So Vindhyas is around the middle of India, if you see now, and beyond Vindhyas used to be called the Karnatagam. Okay, and that's how this music came to be called as Carnatic music. There is another reason that's usually said, which is about in the next point I'll explain about Purandara Dasa. So he's said to be the Pidamaha, the Grand Master of Carnatic music, and due to this reason, he's from Karnataka, basically the Karnataka region, which is now. So for this reason also, it is called Carnatic music. Okay, and around 15th century came Purandara Dasa. His main contribution is that he laid out the basics, how to teach, how to learn Carnatic music. Very scientifically, he put down what are the training methods, which raga to use to start with training, and he selected those very scientifically. So basically, he has chosen a raga called Maya Malava Gaula, and it has all sorts of intervals between the notes. So when you're practicing in Maya Malava Gaula, you're actually getting trained for placing the notes at different gaps, all possible different gaps. Okay, and he also laid out the Sapta Tala system that we discussed earlier. And that's how this became a Shastriya Sangeetam. It's scientifically put down, very well laid out and properly studied. Another major milestone is in 16th century when the Melakarta scheme was formalized. Again, it is attributed to the scholars Venkata Makhin and Govindacharya. We discussed Melakarta just before when we discussed the Raga scheme, where a proper study of the ragas was done. Okay, but remember that ragas basically they're setting a mood. It's a melody, a type of melody kind of thing, And it's not that like they invented the scheme of ragas. Ragas already existed. They just put it down into a scientific way to be studied properly. Okay. Now in 17th century came three people who are known as the Trinity of Carnatic music: Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshidhar, and Shyamas Shastri. In fact, their contributions were so prolific that they have written so many compositions in so many ragas that it has basically eclipsed all contributions from the before centuries. So we hardly know, like very few compositions exist from the time before them, because they had composed so many, they had so many followers that most of our present day music, we only know about them. Okay. And this is around the time when we adopted violin into Carnatic music. Violin in its present form is not native to India. Okay. It's a Western instrument, and it was adopted, the style was adopted to play Carnatic music. And from that period, from 17th century is what is known as modern period in Carnatic music. And 19, 20, 21 centuries, there are so many milestones, so many people that I can't even begin to put everyone's names down here. But just to mention few names, Swadhi Tirunal, who was the Prince of Travancore State, my hometown, he was a very good composer. He has, like, other than his stately duties being a king, he was known as the composer king, basically. So he has made so many cultural revolutions, and he is very much recognized for his compositions in Carnatic music. And another name to be mentioned is Balamurali Krishna. So he was a prodigy, and by the time he was 17 years old, he had composed songs in all of the 72 different Melagatta ragas. That was his brilliance. Okay. And when composing, it's not just about tuning, it's also about writing the lyrics and setting it to tune to the tala and everything. And lastly, I would like to mention that in Wikipedia, Carnatic music, it's supposed, like some of the events, there is an event that happens every year in Chennai called the Chennai musical season. Every year it happens from November to January. And Wikipedia has labeled this as the world's largest cultural gathering. Okay, even I was surprised. But the main point here is that it's not like a pop singer or a rock band who comes to play and 1 lakh people show up to listen to them. The difference here is that all of these people who come there, they're all performers as well. So there are thousands of concerts actually happening there. Okay, independent musicians are coming there and performing. In that way, also, it's one of the largest gathering of performers. Okay. So that is to say, like, Carnatic music has a very good following.
Where is this?
This happens in Chennai.
Oh, I've been there once.
Yeah, I mean, you should visit around this time, November to January.
But I went in December, spent 1 week listening to concerts.
Oh, what is that?
It's about 10 years back.
Oh, you've been there. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I mean, it still has a very solid following, and the difference is that these are all.
One question I have is Balamurali still alive?
No, he passed away 2 years back. Have you heard?
He passed away?
His concerts? Yes.
I kind of know him by face, and I thought that he was alive 20, 30 years back. I was wondering if he was still alive or not.
Yeah, he passed away a couple of years back.
Oh, right.
Okay. So that's about the past to present. Now, just to cover the contemporary scene. So what is happening in Carnatic music these days, right? So mainly, like I'll put some points here, and mostly I'll play back some videos. So we are seeing new kinds of compositions. So previously in Carnatic music, what we call it's the Gayaki Sampradaya. Gayaka Sampradaya, basically all music that is composed, it's composed for the vocalist to sing, and secondarily for instruments to play. But these days we are seeing compositions that are made for instruments to play. And this is Western music is mostly like written for instrumental music. That's the contrast between our music and another contrast between our music and their music. Now, for example, there is this violin duo, Ganesh Kumresh, who composes only for violin. And I'll play back this video. And very beautiful compositions. These are all properly Carnatic music, just that it's not meant to be sung, it's meant to be played. Okay, and of course we have awesome recordings and learning materials. Never before has it been this easy. Like we've had written notations of music, but nowadays we have these recordings. We can listen, we can see people, experts playing and singing, and we can learn from them. And this is one aspect that I enjoy very much, which is remixing and fusion music and art. So you already know that a lot of remixes happen, right? So one popular example is the same Krishnani Begane composition. Colonel Cousins has remixed it into a very good piece, right? And A.R. Rahman adopts a lot of very good aspects of both Hindustani and Carnatic music into his compositions. And some other examples I'll just play. There is this band called Agam, one of my favorite bands. So they're a hard rock band, and they use Carnatic music as the base. So here is a small snippet. Yeah, so it goes on like that. And there is another one, which is basically remixing of both Carnatic music and classical dance forms. So I'll play back this video. So yeah, if you enjoy both dance and music, you are in for a treat, because a lot of these remixes happening and very beautifully done. Right? Yeah, so that is about the remixing and this thing. And one interesting aspect, as we are adopting more and more tech into music, I'll show you a couple of really cool things that are happening. You might have heard of this guy called Mahesh Raghavan. If you're following music, you might have seen him already. So see what he uses for Carnatic music. So yeah, that's an iPad, and he's using an app. That app is called GeoShred. So if you have an iPad, you can check it out. He has tutorials on YouTube that teaches you how to play music on this app as well, Indian music. And he's on a mission to basically make Carnatic music cool again. I'll show you one more example of an interesting instrument that he uses, which is called the Rolly C-board. Okay.
The only thing that makes it really unique is it's one continuous surface. So you can slide between notes. So I have a flute sound that's being triggered on my computer. So let me show you. So you can really slide across. That's what makes it really unique, because Indian music is all about the ornamentations and, as you say, the gamaks or the gamakas, the sliding between the notes that makes it Indian music. And another really interesting thing about this instrument is that it's pressure sensitive. So however pressure I put, like how much ever pressure I put, it reacts to that. So if I'm pressing softly, it's soft. If I press loudly, if I press hard, it just gets louder. So it's an extremely expressive way to play music, especially Indian music. So if I were to give a little bit of a demo.
Right, so very music is getting adopted to Carnatic music basically. So this was not an issue with Western music where the slidings and all those things were not there, but now these instruments, they can basically represent our music much more better. Okay, so this is one thing that's happening. And lastly, a lot of digitization tech, machine learning, all these things are getting applied to music. So about the tech side, right, one other interesting thing that I want to show you is there are these 360-degree videos coming out, right? So if you have Oculus Go, like this VR headset that you wear, right, you can really enjoy in a different way altogether. So here is a recording of a classical concert and see what I can do with it, right? I basically, you see this, it's a 360-degree video. So I can play back this video and I can be there in the center. So previously music artists used to be the center of the stage, but now you are the center of the stage, right? And you can simply listen. And I'll show you with the example. I can see I'm in there with them, right? And in fact, I can zoom in and see what this guy is playing. So yeah, immersive music, and it is going to change the whole feel of the music. You can be in the middle of it all, right? So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the aspects I wanted to cover. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here.
Thanks, man. Very nice.
Welcome. Any questions, any points to discuss?